The alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Fellow citizens, following the sequence of events, Uganda seems to be at political crossroads.
I'm not a servant of anybody.
Madam, I know the law.
As such, Alternative Digital brings you the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besuje.
Let's keep on the same page on Alternative Digitalk,
As he gives you the alternatives on the transition question, rule of law, human rights and freedom, youth inclusion in governance, economic stagnation, as he confirms.
I'll be always here Saturday from 10 a.m. in the morning. Be there.
Don't miss the live discussion on the Alternative Uganda, Digitalk TV Facebook pages, and the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel.
Looking for a pair of shoes? Let's Up Stores has a wide range of selection for unisex footwear. We have the best quality of all brands at pocket-friendly prices and with neck deliveries countrywide. Just place your order or reach us on 0772 08 0090. You can also check up at Let's Up Stores on all our social media platforms. Let's Up, craft your own footprints.
The alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
A very, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to today's edition of the Hotline. My name is Rogers Tulyahabwe, and in studio with me are people who are going to be talking to us about a number of issues. But first of all, I'm very glad to be here this day, and of course I come with apologies from Comrade Abdelatif. I know you're used to his face being in this space at this time every Monday morning and every Monday evening, but for this day, for one reason or another, he wasn't able to be here, and so that is why I'm standing in his shoes. They are big, but I'll try to make sure that I fit in. So we're going to have the opportunity to moderate a discussion with the gentleman in studio with me. And just to put a disclaimer, especially for my very own, each one of them are probably blessed or are experts in one or two ways. But as an individual myself, I would not say that I am an expert on any of the topical issues that are going to be discussed here. So whatever I am saying is only as far as my opinions are concerned and my experiences are concerned. So you may not exactly take my word as a gospel truth, but you could come, we could learn together. I believe some of you are more experienced in particular issues than I am. But so we are here to learn from each other. So I'm going to invite my guests, each one of them. I will give them a minute to introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into the discussion. So when we were young, Waganda used to say, Kanem, Kanabi, Kanem, Kanabi. I'll begin with you.
Thank you so much, Rogers. A very good evening to our viewers. I'm glad to be hosted today. And nice meeting my comrade Norman. I am called Kato Tumusiime. I am a lawyer, an advocate of the High Court, a political and human rights activist, and a Ugandan at large as a whole. I'm happy to be here this evening to share my views and opinions to the rest of the public. Thank you.
Man, the titles are very many. I heard that last. Those are usually big titles, but let's cross to another panelist.
My name is Tumuhimbise, and I happen to be the usual suspect in this studio. And everybody, there is an opportunity to share. I always thank the team that considers us, not because we are experts, but because we simply have the courage to share the little that we know. You know, when you have the courage to share the little that you know, you beat professors who hide with their knowledge. So thanks once again.
Okay, thank you both for joining the discussion today. I want to categorically say that today is, I want us to be as open as possible, but also objective as possible.
Okay.
So as we share, I don't want to feel like you need to leave an information, one or two information behind, because we are here to, first of all, to learn with people. So we need to provide as much factual information as possible. So I'm going to begin before we get into the topic or discussion of the day, I want each one of you to give us one highlight of a story that has made, has made stories for you that had made sense for you this year. I don't know if I should put it in sense, but one story that has stood out, I think that is a better, that has stood out for you this year, since this year began.
For the year?
Yeah, this year so far.
I would wish to pray that you give me at least two.
Two stories. Okay, if one is confusing, we'll give you space for another.
But the most famous one that has stood out for me, I think now it's the anti-homosexuality bill that has been brought back to Parliament. You remember the excitement that was in Parliament?
Is it fair for someone to copy my story?
You can say
because if you remember the excitement that was in Parliament voting, and they were saying we have to do this within that limited time, and what they came up with, from the word go, most of us criticized it on the points of law and the matters of the constitution, basing on the inconsistencies and the contravention that was in that law with the already existing laws, especially the constitution. And when I heard the president talk about, sending it back to Parliament and citing a few clauses that should be amended and re-edited, maybe to remove some words and maybe make some additions. And surprisingly, the Rwanda Attorney General, she wasn't present that day, but the deputy was present. The person who would have advised the Parliament from the word go, as they were coming up with the bill, actually came later to advise the Parliament when the bill had even been passed by the same Parliament. And the excitement, the rafters, and the jokes, as always, that they made while passing that law. So when it returns, I hope now the Attorney General, with all due respect, he will be able and he will be bold to advise that Parliament, advise the members of Parliament to stop their excitement, but for what they don't say.
What is excitement in this case? What is excitement?
When we are making laws and or we are even trying to bring justice to people, emotion should never be attached, because justice can never be brought on matters of emotions.
Can you separate morality and emotions from emotions?
But we have the laws that govern how legislation should be made.
Yeah.
And that's the first qualifier. That whichever law that is made by Parliament or any other body that is mandated to make such a law must contravene and meet the standards of the Constitution. That is the grand norm of the country.
Yes.
So if you find any clause or the whole bill contravening and inconsistent with the Constitution or a certain provision of the Constitution, that's when you will see each and every day people going to court to challenge the same sections, challenge the same laws, and we are wasting taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
Because the day the Attorney General leaves his office to that TWED, Constitutional Court, that's money spent, that's allowances per day, with all the researchers and the rest. So to avoid all that, we should be considerate as we are making these laws and follow at least the basic principles of constitutionalism. As a country that believes in constitutionalism and the rule of law. It also adds to the Computer Misuse Act as well, that was also challenged. And we are citing the same mistakes. And the problem is that these parliamentarians use the same methods, use the same tools, but they want to get different results. And, the result will always be the same. Court, Constitutional Court, then the nullification, then the Parliament will rest and, I think they are too excited. And their intention, in my view, is that they don't want us to tell them the truth that they are not working at all. Actually, they are short of what they are meant to do in that Parliament. And to, make most of their supporters and believers happy. That's how they come and roughly make a rough copies of the law, and they give you an opportunity to go and challenge it in court. And the speaker, in her wisdom and capacity, will be frank and bold on the national television, and she will say, we shall pass it the way it is, and let us give also the courts some work to do. I think that's the first one. Then the second one is the increased now violation of human rights, the tortures, the way demonstrators are being handled,
Yeah.
including the MPs themselves, including the journalists, yourselves, and so many other people. So it has been on a rise and increase. And surprisingly, nobody is talking about it. Then, to sum it all, I think the best one, and I hope we are getting more of the same, is the arrest of the minister in the iron sheet scandal, stealing from the jail, the Karachunas, and wanting to go and build for their cattle and goats some shade, you know. And surprisingly, when Minister Guru came out on bail, there is a famous quote he made. And he said, he has now realized, I think it was God's plan that he should be in prison so that he can learn how the prison situation is. And he's actually calling for and advocating for change in the welfare of the prisoners and the way they live. I think that's a good point. And I wish most of them should first go there so that they can see what the rest of Ugandans are facing. And you know, most of us have been always arrested, and other people arrested on a Friday. You sleep there over the weekend, and they start counting on Monday for the 48-hour rule. And these MPs and these MPs and ministers have been there, and they say, that's very okay, you can be arrested, and it's normal. But when one of them was arrested, I also see Chris Waliomon's honorable trying to say it is very bad. How do you arrest the minister on a Friday knowing that courts will not work on a Saturday? And as if they are new in Uganda and they have not heard about such things happening. So I wish most of them, the way they are listed, should be taken to Brazil for 1 week, and they will come up with some solutions, and they will actually make maybe Brazil a little bit better for the rest of the Ugandans.
Okay, those are stories that have stood out for you.
Yeah, sure.
But I feel like the biggest part of it has been on, most of it is on the procedural matters, especially as far as lawmaking process is concerned in Parliament. So your issues have mostly and largely been on Parliament and the conduct of Parliament this year so far. Okay, I'm going to go to Mr. Norman to also give us a highlight. What has stood out for you since this year began? We have had a lot of stories, but somehow we seem to move on from one to another, and then sometimes we have not seen any solutions.
For the means to, some of the words would even call them the lower lights, not even just the highlights. But I would not be far away from what Councillor Kato has submitted. But maybe begin with Amanya Mushega's quote, where he says that history never repeats itself, but rather fools repeat the same mistakes. So you find that we do not have, literally don't have history repeating itself, but in so many cases we have.
People not learning from history.
No, Rogers, I said, history does not repeat itself, fools repeat the same mistakes. So where are we getting the people?
History.
Yeah, so fools repeat the same. So not to say that, of course that's just a quotation from Omanya Mushega, not to say that our parliamentarians are fools, but there are people who are repeating some mistakes that some other people have done. Not reading from history. And you know, when you intentionally don't, or rather avoid reading from history, you lose the present, and so is the future. For me, I saw our speaker and, you know, the team of Ugandans that represent us in Parliament jubilating, and like Council said, you know, they rather did not reason out of law, but they used emotions. And by the blackmail, and I mean, Anita Among knows, at least from my heart, that she was blackmailing people. If you remember how she managed that house. And she even said, religious leaders, come and join us. Which other laws has that woman passed? When religious leaders are in Parliament? You get? Which other law has that woman?
This one was a moral question, and people who are stewards of beliefs.
If it was a job, if it was a law in regards to the exploitation of young people, when has she said, okay, the jobless people out there who are unemployed, come and you see that for us we are against what? Trafficking, or even the victims, inviting some victims to occupy the Parliament and literally participate. And she went ahead to say, this law will be by show of hands. You get mandatory by show of hands. So that alone showed that she was politicking and trying to buy, to have that cheap popularity. Even with our colleague, what's his name, Basari, who is literally, who just carried something he didn't know. He was carrying a sack of snakes that he didn't even know he was carrying something. I'm sure he stuck with it. You cannot pass a law where the Prime Minister is absent in Parliament in that day, and most of the ministers. If you are intelligent enough as a lawyer, then you know that for sure you are carrying a quack. Yeah. So that it didn't make news for me. I wasn't though surprised, but symptoms already showed that this law couldn't pass. Later alone, the president, in his wisdom, as always, he confused people by introducing two words. We are yet to find out on whether this homosexuality is by nature or by nature. And I knew that alone could take time, and it was already a signal that this law couldn't pass, because literally has to set perhaps people to find out, scientists to find out on whether it's by nature or by nature.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Apparently, the president is set to meet the Parliamentary Committee on Legal Affairs tomorrow. And the government chief whip, that is Hamson Obua, right? Yes. Is quoted saying today that there are chances that most of the provisions of what was the bill, or is still the bill, may not exactly change, not necessarily. So maybe we'll hear from what comes from tomorrow's cabinet meeting with the president meeting with the parliamentary committee.
It is the parliamentary legal committee to meet the president, not the president to meet.
Okay, yes, it's a meeting between both.
Because if it's me meeting you, it's me who is supposed to come and finding you.
Even where...
Okay, so the parliamentary committee...
all these things take us back to that principle of separation of powers. You remember the Minister for Education, when she so wishes to meet to meet Parliament, she invites them to Recently, when they were grabbing and investigating all these iron sheets, thieves, suspects, for another word, a whole committee went to most of the ministers' offices, even that very person, the chief whip, and so many others. They would visit them.
With the vice president.
With the vice president. Meaning that the entire Parliament is like a houseboy, in quotes, institution, a houseboy organ under the cabinet. So that alone tells you how the legislature, just like any other agencies and organs, are being swallowed by the cabinet. That aside, I want to go back to Mr. Museveni's words, by nature and nature. When it is, by the way, literally when it is by nature, should the scientists prove to the world that it's by nature, there will not be any law that curbs something that is natural. Because if someone tells you, I'm born that way, so hang me.
Like so that many say.
Should it be by nature? Should it be by nature? Because him and most of the African governments are beneficiaries of all these sorts of aids from the West. They will literally have nothing to do but ensure that the laws that will curb something that is by nature are understandable and therefore can be dealt with, which the West wants.
By the way, the European Parliament yesterday said they will do whatever is possible to convince the president. Of course, they use convince to convince the president not to assent to that bill.
They are right. When they use convincement, they mean, you see, you don't need to convince a lot. You don't need to do a lot to convince an African dictator. All we need is to simply tell them that I will crush Bobi Wine for you. I will crush basically or the opposition, because he literally needs the money. Beginning from the budgets that we run here, most of the money is borrowed or even grants, non-conditional and conditional. Talk of the ammunitions, talk of the medication. Look at the recently passed PS Muhakanizi. He couldn't be treated in Africa, and they have a policy. The West have the policy that every ministers that you have in Africa, they have their medical reports there in their countries. So when you want to do something stupid, they say, "Excuse me, remember this drug is with us." Simple. I mean, that's convincing.
Do not forget that.
Don't forget that literally our doctor is here. We have had the story of, I think it should be Mobutu, whose doctors were sent away, and they said when he would try to get appointments with the doctors, they said they are indisposed. Just to, like, you know, until you come and bend the law to their decisions. So that is a story that made for me, that made some bit of news, that Parliament acted out of excitement and did whatever that it did. And of course, the other story.
Let me ask you before you move out from that. And this is what I want both of you to respond to it. What would you, apart from, okay, the procedure, let's say there were some irregularities in the procedure, but do you think the Parliament is standing on a position that it should have? Or what would you have Parliament to do?
It's a yes and no. You see, for me, first of all, I can assure you that 30% or so of the people who passed the law hadn't read it. Just like it has
that's
been,
an assumption.
Just like it has been with so many laws.
That's an
they even
assumption.
get surprised. Because for sure, if you live in a country where a whole minister says he did not know that people in Lusira suffer, you get, he did not know. And he cries that, no, they should change. How would
the welfare.
But the welfare. But previously, the same person by the names of Kajiji, Katuguku Muwezi. Is Katugu? He's called Katuguku something, Jim Muwezi. Even when the situation was as bad as Lugolobi says, he was courageous enough to march out with the mattress. The mattress that he had gone with. Okay, if it is that,
it was a 1-inch mattress.
You get. So that shows to you how non-patriotic and how selfish these comrades are. When it comes to Parliament, I have no reason whatsoever to blame Parliament if it was doing its things in a righteous way. But most importantly, considering the sequence of priorities, you get the sequence of priorities, that alone should have come alongside so many other things. Yeah, we have so many pending laws that haven't been passed, and at least I know, you know, as a lawyer, as you know, that there are so many laws in Parliament that haven't been passed, which haven't been, put into consideration as a priority. So for me, if it wasn't out of excitement, because it doesn't make sense convening today in 1 month, you rapidly, pass a law, and in less than a week, the president is now inviting you. Because literally, imagine the president inviting the whole NRM caucus. As if to say that every decision can be overruled by a mere caucus. And the speaker, in her brilliance in courts and also smartness, for lack of another word, she sees business as normal. Because if it was under any other reasonable government, you'd say, no matter, you discuss that as Marwa discussion. It has nothing to do with what we passed. What the president should have done is to highlight through the Attorney General and say, A, B, C, and Z is something I don't concur with it, forward it back. If you're powerful enough, you say, excuse me, for us we are over this, because the law allows Parliament to go ahead and passes the law, even when the president refuses to do.
Yeah, is it after 3 times?
Yes, 3 times.
Not
Rejection. Yeah. The Parliament can pass the law. But because our darlings are there to sweet darling the president and the rest, they will not pass anything. She can even, by the way, the president can even now summon both the deputy and the speaker and the deputy and say, and begins, he will have his blackboard to lecture them. You see, 1986.
They are both his party members. He's their chairman.
But in any case, they should. So, maybe they were even part of the NRM caucus, because are they even NRM? So what do you expect of that? Of such a meeting? So to say that the Parliament simply does as what the president so wishes, not the cabinet, by the way. Not what cabinet wants, what Mr. Museveni so wishes. That aside, so we now come to Agnes Nandu to, yeah, baptized by fire. It happens. Indeed, she was baptized by fire, and so was Lugolobi. But that's not enough. What would be enough, in my view, is for the president, whom so many, much as they doubt his capacities to fight corruption, to do the undoable and say, I am reshuffling the entire ministry of the Prime Ministry.
The office of the Prime Minister.
Which is okay, and everyone of us would jubilate. Not because it is something big, but at least it's some crystal towards fighting something. But for him to be there and the entire, this lady, the Prime Minister, and the team, you have a list of over 36 also ministers, and also McHugh, remember Mr. Museveni's letter where he said, unconsciously, you see that man is selective with his words. He had already protected his clique over the unconscious people. So as long as you can prove that for you unconsciously took the iron sheets.
Like
because if there was that room for any criminal to say, I unconsciously committed this crime, so many people would be outside the
unless
prison.
you're a sleepwalker, those are the people who are usually...
So to him, unconsciously, Kasaija, so the iron sheets flying over into his fence. And consciously, the Prime Minister and so many people did what? Kadaga and others got the iron sheets. But then you underline the word unconsciously and say, whether consciously or unconsciously, that should be left to courts of law to prove on whether or not. Because there is a room. There is a room for each one of us, so as long as you have been picked to defend yourself. So the President and his team have jeopardized that principle to ensure that people are tried and proven either or.
Yeah.
Innocent or otherwise, which hasn't worked. And for me, that's the story. And definitely, as always, most likely next week also, we could see another person. You know, he keeps us busy.
By the end of this week.
Yeah, most likely also this week or next week, you could find this lady getting bail, and the story dies there because so many have. I mean, we have had all those sagas. Yeah, we saw the Chogam people from the former vice president. You know, Bukenya was in jail, made the news. You get Jim was in news, Mike Mukula, but then. What happened? Nothing. So
the two stories that stood out have stood out for you.
Maybe which other story? The other story is it the one of this boy who claimed he had been kidnapped by Nope and then he burned himself and then, you know.
We don't even know up to now which is it.
Then you have... Yeah, he died there. I don't know whether he went with the iron, with the flat iron, or he now is the one who banned his people. So you see, Uganda has so many stories. It can have, I mean, so many stories. Now which other story? I think there
is this one of the Kampala Portal exhibition.
By the way, a good one. I would congratulate what's his name? Dr. Sentongo for a successful move. And of course, another story is after such a campaign, and the president, in his wisdom, comes and says, "Give them 6 billion."
He directs the finance
6 billion
to release that money.
You can imagine. So everyone you need money.
To fill madam in the portal,
not to construct roads. It is to fill.
And when it rains 2 days,
the madam will be washed away.
The madam is nowhere.
And if Dukwago and the team were brilliant enough to investigate that, you would find that even feeding people might even bring like rice or some bit of coffee and fill the potholes and run away.
I honestly think that was a very good idea to do.
The campaign or
the campaign itself. The president, that is just to react.
6 billion vis-a-vis they want 100 or
100 billion, yes.
Yeah.
They're supposed to get 100 billion. I think like that the president, what he did was just reactionary. Something
has always been.
Something just went out. Everyone was speaking about it, and it was very embarrassing at that. It went up to the BBC. It was literally, we were just the pothole city. Uganda, the country of potholes. It reminds me of what former president of US called us one time. But that's one thing. So I don't know if we should say that the whole idea of pothole exhibition was a success. I don't know if
it's a success to the advocates, to the campaigners,
to the campaigners.
And it shows some bit of negligence and ill reasoning that someone asks for a minimum of 100 billion and you say take 6 billion.
Not even a quarter.
Yeah. So literally, that money is going to be stolen by the usual thieves. Because what they do, it's like your colleague telling you he's hungry and a basic meal is 5,000 and you give them 50 shillings. Yeah? And then in Muganda would say, Munange nyama ntono kaeneri munkuawa. But sometimes even munkuawa does not even fit there. Yeah. So I think it's a win-win. Rather, it's a win-lose. To the campaigners, it was a big success. They have played their role, and it has exposed the unseriousness of the government.
There are stories. I wanted just to also highlight some of the stories that actually happened that we may not necessarily have talked about. We had mostly two that shook us. We had the airport story, which also began like the portal exhibition. Of course, the social media, people making the noise, and before you know it, people are apprehended and some of them held accountable anyway. But I don't feel like even the issue of the airport itself was addressed.
The challenge with Uganda.
How did it end?
How did it end? Eventually, we moved from the problem of the airport. We moved to this woman. What was her name? That one who is the boss of.
Banturachi.
Is it Bamuturachi? Something like that. Yeah, that one. It went to her, and then we went back and forth. They are appointing authority. We have a report in Parliament that they refused to table. Before you know it, we moved on. We don't even know what happened after that.
Uganda is.
And then after that, we have the NSSF. We have a back and forth.
It is now covered by INC.
Everything is done, and we have moved on. So I feel like we have had a lot of stories, most of which have been very important. But my question is, and this will go to both the people themselves as Ugandans, but also the leaders themselves of the country. Do you think we are paying attention to what the priority should be? Because even as the people, if something comes and we jump onto another person, we leave what is supposed to be addressed. What does that speak even to us about as citizens?
No, the summary is that Uganda has the most unserious citizens. Uganda is one of the countries with the most unserious citizens who are there to be fooled by whoever. That even some person who has never heard of, for example, homosexuality in some deep village there, will say, Parliament will call it day. Why did I say taker? Like, ask which taker? Hey, yo, did you hear that? That law. That when the president and the team come and they launch wealth creation things, you know, those parish models, you'll find my grandmom or some person deep in Idwengo saying, this Museveni wishes us good. They have given us 100 million. You get, but they've given us money. And then you ask, the very unserious citizen will not ask, okay, 100 million per parish. How many citizens do we have in a parish? Divided by
100.
How much does each one take? No one will bother. But you find them clapping. Some person might even sell his chicken to go to the center, like they call it, take waraji, because money will come next week. Next week. So that's how unserious Ugandans have been. And this is intentional because there is a deliberate move for people not to learn, understand. Go home, watch your TV, or tune in onto any radio and hear what is broadcasted. Yeah? Watch your TV and see the first 3 leading stories. Embata yamize sabuni namwandu akomeo ntisa namwandu akomeo oluvanyuma lw'okunoba emyaka 5. Those are the stories. The first 5 stories. Make a survey. All of us, let's take it on and say, Kato, what did you watch yesterday as your leading story? You get namwandu, like a widow who had left someone who was home 50 years ago, returned to fight for property. As soon as that story is done, the second story is Baba kwatidde mu bwenzi. That's the second story. The third story, you have to tell them about Akaba. You get. Then the fourth story will be like Abalons, like the voters of the MOP were casting NRM, like for having arrested. You know.
Yeah,
you get.
Leader, yeah.
As in, and the guys are queuing up at court to say, you took our colleague. This guy is a patriot. He should be in. You get. So for sure, how would you describe such an electorate? Tell me, in black and white.
Does it now give us the?
Take it to council.
Let me ask you. Does with all that and seriousness, that the headlines are about those funny headlines and attention to unusual and serious issues, does that give us the authority now to check the people who are our leaders? Because the people come from within us.
No, a second, Rogers. You see, when you ask that, we ask our leaders. I think we need to ask ourselves first, because it is silly for us to think that he who was stupid when he was a kid, that the moment he's voted an MP or councillor, he gets another head. It's the same head. So the same head that was silly when you were in P1, P2, university, then by God's grace you hit that jackpot and become an MP, in fact, even becomes more stupid. Because now it's now compromised by money and all the fancies, the fantasies you get when you become a leader. So it goes back to our communities. How do we even elect and choose these leaders? Once they are there, they will be reasonable enough. Because a voter who wasn't bribed by a pancake or 1,000 would not be at court queuing up and blaming the government and the DPP for having sanctioned
somebody.
Yeah. A file of someone we presume took, not because, by the way, he took anything that belonged to them, but perhaps because the thief, as alleged, stole what does not, to the voters, think it's not theirs. I mean, you get the logic.
After all, we are not Karamajong.
Are you getting? So we are not Ugandans. We are now either Fenga Baganda, Fenga Banyankole, Fenga Bachiga. You get? So as long as a Muganda can steal what belongs to Karamajong, it's okay.
Yeah, okay.
You get? And that is now the beginning of our decay as a nation. Literally, Uganda, rather Baganda would say, to Swaziza, he's shaming us, he should be in. You get? To be exemplary. You get?
Yeah.
But then one also wonders, have they come on board to say that, look, much as we are in the Karamajong sub-region, A, B, C, and Z has happened, we now come as a collective. So it's like, this country has been divided, sub-divided. So what happens in Western Uganda, it's up to you. You get? When Gulu is people, Northerners are fighting, it's up to them. Even if they chop all their lips off and
the rest of the
it's
country
okay.
is moving
You
on.
get?
But
Everything is normal.
To add on that, Rogers, before we even question the citizens on whether they can question and put inquiries on the leaders, you should first understand the dynamics on how these leaders are voted into power. I have had an opportunity of being and meeting so many politicians, so many, especially during the period of campaigns and the rest. And I have heard how they deal and how most of them actually hit the jackpot, like Nomad called it, so that they can become an MP. A group of people.
There's one MP around that I will not mention. He was declared when he was in a bar. He was like, Honorable, you couldn't believe it.
You get, he couldn't. And that's how the situation is. That's funny.
That's the jackpot. You go and debate. When you're home, like, hey, Arsenal won, the elephant.
So to say, a group of people will sit, like we are here, and they will say, as they're enjoying, most of them are always taking their brew and the rest. And they will say, we have had that MP and he has got some money from politics. Now what do we do as this group? So that you can get somebody, go represent us, get some money, at least you can always take a share. You get? So that's why they will pick somebody who they think will actually come and confuse or convince or bribe or do whatever he does and find himself in parliament. And what happens when he gets to parliament? These are the people the news will be showing you praying sortea, matatu on the tablets. When they are discussing and they will come, AI, and they will say the AI is
giving bites in the corridors.
I have always challenged so many journalists. You talk to the parliamentarians that we have. Ask them about 2 or 3
basics.
And basic things, by the way.
What they have talked about. The other day I was laughing laughing at these opposition MPs who sit in Parliament. Parliament, one of its role is to make the budget allocations, and they have parts and members of the same committees. They go on the floor of Parliament, they are given time to debate and also giving their inputs when the budget is being made on the floor of Parliament. Instead of utilizing that time and utilizing their ideas, adding them onto what was suggested to be the budget that will run this country for the next financial year, they had to sit at was it Serena or Africana, and they were saying they were launching an alternative budget. And people were clapping, in opposition, it called it. You see, that's a wastage of time after all. You get my point? So, the same people who are being confused, and the same people are asking whether they can make their leaders accountable. This is what they put to Parliament. Maybe somebody used to sit with you and buy you a bottle of beer or a glass of soda or a kilo of sugar or a bar of soap.
They only got
That's
an
how
opportunity to
they
be
got
in
an
the
opportunity. And surprisingly, the same people will come and be telling you, oh, Mr. Kato, we sent this MP, but he has just let us down. And you ask, what made you vote him? And you're like, oh, he used to buy us sugar and what? And what do you expect from that one? Because it is almost like a business.
Yeah.
You invest in.
It's a give and take.
And then take, you get. But to say that the government itself, the civil society, have not also done what they need to do.
Yeah.
Especially in sensitizing the people and teaching them the basics of what they should base on when looking for leaders electing them, and when they're in parliament or in any leadership position, what should they be doing for the communities and the people themselves. Not until the people understand their role and their power, that it is them to send these people to parliament and other elective positions, and it is them to actually ask them tough questions of accountability, then we are still doomed as a nation. Because at the end of it all, you watch, good enough you are a young man and you have a lot of friends around you. You always follow them. Go to their rooms and see what they're watching on news, on their TVs. You go on their phones and see what they're watching. And do you really think that they have the power and the capacity to ask an MP on what he has contributed? Maybe when the parliament was passing a certain bill, when it was making a certain budget. Most of them are unaware. To the extent that you ask somebody who the prime minister of this country, and they say, you get? They will say, and this is somebody who has gone to the university, he has his bachelor's, and he's at his
Someone might ask you, Babas was sacked.
You get?
It is possible.
So that's how our society is. And the people and the societies, like the civil society organizations, the government itself, want us to stay in that kind of a state. That you are helpless to that point, and you only think of getting a meal for a day, and maybe affording life in Kampala, putting on a nice shoe and a nice shirt.
And drive a nice car.
Drive a nice car, if that's when you can even afford the fuel that is increasing each and every day. And maybe go to a bar, and that's the end of the story. Because somebody will be telling you that I already have a program for this week, I am already booked. And that's the life they want to live in. And you tell them to come and ask why Parliament did ABCD, or why these MPs and ministers are involved in stealing iron seats. So the priorities of the people and what they think they are meant to do in this society is contrary to what we need as a nation.
Which now brings me to another question. And I'm going to begin with you, and I'll want also him to give an opinion to it. Now we have, with all due respect, a very unserious society generally. Citizenry, people, everyone, it's not my business. Somehow it's not my business. I have an opportunity to be in a circle of, let's say, let me call them believers, church and all that. I have a lot of friends who are in that class. So sometimes there was a video you saw, we made actually here, about corruption. So it was going around. And then one time one of the guys came and asked me, but why do you do this thing? That's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's like, why are you wasting time?
Why are you wasting time?
Why are you wasting time? So we have that type, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
You have that quality of citizenry. And every single day we are saying that the government is not doing this for us, government is not doing that for us, government is corrupt at that. Is it, who is going to hold who accountable? Because now the government is doing other things, but the people themselves that are supposed to hold the government together are doing other things. How do we get out of this whole mess to make a better society? We have neighbors here in Kenya. People are like centuries ahead of us. Look at us.
Rogers, you see, they always say charity begins at home. I want you to take a picture in our societies and first look at the homes that most of us come from. And you ask yourself, where will charity begin from? In such homes and their setups. Because we are in a community and we are in a society where you find that even somebody who would be sitting their son or daughters down to tell them what they are meant to do in this world so that they can create an impact in the society, are also minding their own business. You get? This is a society and a generation that is very mixed, that you will find a father of 50, a father of 60 in a nightclub, dancing with a university student in first year.
18-year-old.
You get? That's the kind of the society. And you expect that parent to go home and tell Rogers and sit you down and say, Rogers, as a citizen of the nation, these are your duties and maybe responsibilities. And if you do A, B, C, D, at least you will have added a block on this country. Then we leave the families at all. We go to the churches. And you know, my views about the church and religion are always very bitter, but the honest truth, very bitter. Because I had an opportunity to be born in a church, like a church-going kid. I participated in church activities for a long time. And my problem comes in here. These churches have the basics to start with, I should say. Most of the churches have schools, most of the churches have hospitals, like they have programs and things that should be helping each and every person that actually maybe believes in that church and maybe has done something for the church. But in the same churches, you will find a child who cannot even afford 20,000 as school fees, even in a school that is owned by the same church. The message they preach today is the same message they will preach after 5 or 6 weeks. It's repeatedly. And they will come and bring in new, I should call them activities, maybe new strategies and new programs. And my question had always been to them, if you come this month and tell us how to get rich maybe at a family level, how to get involved in farming so that it can be productive and we can be able to lift our economic status to another level, you come after 4 or 5 months, repeat the same message, but you have not followed out to find out how impactful was the message you brought at once. Then you have lost it all. We have churches that have made it a habit now, that people must go to church morning for the morning, what is it called? Morning glory. They will go there. They will go there at lunchtime. For the lunch hour. They will go there in the evening for the evening devotion. They will even sleep there for that overnight. That is a practice that is done Monday to Monday. You get? And the same church is telling people that, you see, God is watching. God is hearing your prayer. Play. And he will place you somewhere. This is somebody who doesn't work.
But they also, the same Bible says,
and I don't know.
Do they read those things? You see,
I don't
Bible,
know. Plus, they are the same churches that will see these iron sheet thieves of Karamoja. And they are the same people they will be giving microphones. Sensitize the people. They will be in front. Oh, they will make all those prayers and pray for blessings and pray that God gives them more riches and more riches. And what do you expect from a young boy who is seated there and maybe has had an opportunity to read from the news that a person age, Tutu, Rugorobi, Nandutu, and even the speaker, Kandaga, the prime minister, the vice president are iron sheet thieves. And this pastor is blessing them, he is even kneeling down, and they want to cry because at the end of it all, this minister will touch and get from his pockets where he kept the money he sold from the iron sheets of Karamoja and placed in a basket. You get? So this is where all we go wrong on the issue of morality. I was laughing some days ago when I saw the Church of Uganda that it wants to separate itself from the Church of England, you know, on the issues of homosexuality. And I am like, people, wait, when did we reach at this point? You get, so issues of religion, they have also let us down. And to change this, I think, if I could get power in this country and authority, I would be one person to advocate for taxing these churches, because they have made a lot of money and they are useless to the rest of the community. They are not adding any crystal on the development of this country, on building the morality that you always want to talk about, issues of morality. They have actually made it worse even. And I believe I will one day try to check them and maybe see how we can tax them because they are money venture.
You want to move a motion to tax? Anyways,
Yes,
I think
yes.
it should be-
Surely, me, I
fair
want to
move.
move it.
yeah, I wanted, before I come back to him, time is going to go. I wanted you to give us, with now we have a hopeless society with the hopeless
With
leaders.
hopeless leaders
And literally with no
and
direction
hopeless
now.
institutions.
No direction. What is it we need? Who is going to help who? What is it we need to do?
You see, it all starts with fighting. When you get your conscience, you gather it back. Because some people have lost their consciousness, and that's how they ended up being hopeless. But the day you gain your conscience, don't sit on what you know. At least if you get an opportunity like Digitalk, use the media platform and also send your message to the rest of the people. So that those people who can get an opportunity of watching you or listening to you, or even getting a friend who heard and listened from what you are talking about, can also send the same message to the rest. Because I believe at the end of it, or if you keep on tackling these issues, somebody and their mentality and their understanding could change at some point, and that's how we shall change this society. So it all starts with you, Rogers. What you know and the messages you made, keep doing the same messages. I know so many people will say you are wasting time and resources, but the second time they see the same video, maybe they will be touched by some crystal point in the video, and that's how the same message will change. And you know, changing 1 and 2, that's how we shall add and
Yeah, it's one by one.
change
Yeah, that's true.
the whole community and the nation.
Yes, sir.
For me, I have no sympathies for the dull, and I have never had sympathies for the dull. And by God's grace, He has also protected me not to be a friend of any lame brains, because they drain. Yeah, they drain. So what you rather do is going back to the norms of when we were sick, when we would fall sick as kids. In my language, there's what we call okujumbura. Okujumbura, like if it is tobacco, our parents would chew the tobacco leaves, force you as you scream, you make noise, they hold you, and then the kujumbura, they spit into your mouth that that medicine, and that's why we are as brilliant and courageous as we are. Had our parents become stupid at a time and said, "Hey, my kid is over screaming, let me leave them be," many kids would die. So Ugandans need to be held like little kids, and you kubajumbura, you force them to do some things. Some time ago, I was communicating with some people, and I said, if I am a villager myself, but if villagers continue to throw bottles and what, maybe we should have some park. When they are leaving Masaka, you throw them in lwayer around, and you orient them how to manage, how to live in the city. Yeah, take a week to orient them and say, Kato is from Mutungamo, throw them in so that people can know that where I'm going. This is how they behave in the city. They don't be chewing gum and you spit here and there, you throw buvera here and there, forcefully. And then maybe the country would change. That if elections do not make sense because they are being bought and the rest, maybe take time to, maybe half a year is to teach people how and what is the purpose of voting and the purpose of leaders. That even when, Rogers, you know that your brother does not qualify, be the first the campaign and say, Kato, my chance this one is my brother. Don't vote him.
You will not manage.
You get, because it has happened. You have seen people. I have been in. I have attended a burial in some place in Kavadi, and when these catechists came to preach good about the deceased, the father picked the microphone and said, "Hazan mubiha, ogumane chamwita nobushambani."
It was him, yeah.
And the parent was like, "What? You guys stop lying. My kid or my son has died of fornication. It is HIV, it is AIDS that has killed him. Stop. Tell people the truth." That the young people, the young people here at this burial can learn from all of us that, look, once you do A, the results are B. You get? So how many courageous people do we have in this country that will bring the iron sheets at the church? And this father or reverend says, "Honorable, the iron sheets have Karamoja, may you please thank you, but take away iron sheets. How many of those people do you think this country has? You get? So as long as we do not have such a species of citizens, this country will just sink, and we shall all of us sink with it, because we have considered to let the water join the boat. You get? So to say, we must now try the forceful way of okujumbura, like I said, in our language. It's just like if you lose an analogy of having a painful tooth, I can assure you, plucking it out will cause some pain. Yeah? And you must ensure you shake it, pluck it out, and you are willing to also have that bit of bleeding. And tomorrow you will smile and be like, okay, the pain is gone. That's what is happening for now in our country. And what we're doing is also to forcefully push hard to ensure that this the sleeping citizenry maybe can wake up. In just a second, a few seconds ago, some person, PLO, as we were on the show, he was watching some things and he was like, this is a very courageous woman. I think she deserves a medal, referring to Sarah Virete about that video that has been trending. How many courageous people to her caliber does the country have? You get? So we need to do more and more and more until when these things really work out. If, for example, bishops and reverends would refuse those iron sheets, no any other thief would bring them.
Yes.
You get? You just have. I saw one reverend, was he a father? Who was like, he was against them, and I think he refused them or something like that on TV. So if that is, and that person is not even sung. You get? No one is even talking about him. So imagine if you had so many like him, then every thief would know, even when I steal these things.
The church will
they will not take them, but my dear, these are the guys with the big stomachs. They have even special seats in the front. Yeah? They always, you go, with respect, you go to our churches, ordinary churches, and no matter how early you will go to church, try to sit in those front seats. Ushers will be like,
especially in the festive season.
No, ushers will tell you, come. You know how they take you politely? Behind, at the back of the church, because they know that these first blessings are for these clergy, the thieves, the big buried men.
Something in the
they're sitting in front. When have you seen the nabajas of this world or enemies are sitting behind? They are in front. Even, I think, most likely, even in the heaven, most likely, the corrupt will be closer to God because they're the ones who get to the front seats.
I go to the same church with the Minister of Health, but I've not seen special treatment. I don't know. Anyways, I am not the one who arranges.
Maybe that church is a liberal church.
In our local churches,
maybe that's a liberal church.
Even when the church is full, and they will find, for example, no man occupying a front seat, they will hold on the hand. So anyway, sorry, Honorable has come.
Now, as cylinder as
and they will hold your hand and escort you out.
And
they make this honorable sit in front.
All those thieves, the corrupt, none of them comes to church early. They want that attention, they come late.
Even when the service is ending,
stand-up honorable has come.
Even when the service is
ending,
even when they come at the end of the service, even when people have started moving out, they will give that honorable, that safe microphone. Talk to the people. Talk to them.
And so now, as we conclude this, we are going to go in for a very short commercial break. But I want to get just a little one more about the Mabati and this whole thing. Do you think the arrest of these ministers will make any change? Because when at first when this issue happened, the president was very quiet. There was a time when he was giving a national address, and everyone is expecting the man should say.
But off record, when
the man said nothing.
When we had it come here, I told you that those of us who have followed Mr. Museveni, he doesn't do the obvious. And once you tune your mind that he doesn't do the obvious, you learn him more. He knew, but he was waiting for the right time. Secondly, for me, it's a yes and a no. He will achieve. Rather, there is going to be some change. This is the way how. He cannot create any change that does not benefit him. Mr. Museveni has had so many people, NRM diehards, that have been jobless and very, 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 in a very worrying state. he has now an opportunity to replace the likes of Agnes Nandutu, you know the things.
And ministries.
Yeah, and have others.
Some money.
Secondly, it could be political mileage. This guy is lethal nowadays. He can also put people, the corrupt in. And our usual sleepwalkers, the voters, be like, the man has even put ministers in. You get so for him, he has already achieved the 2026 roadmap campaign message about and against corruption. Back to you.
Man, to me, I feel it's a two-way traffic. It's either yes and no. One of the benefits he has, achieved from this, and I know so many ministers will be arrested, including the RDCs, including the cows, including the MPs, whoever took the iron sheets. Most of them will go to that jail.
Maybe can you add that whoever took the iron sheet and does not have any significant consequences upon the arrest. If you want to know that there are some people that are untouchables, let Mr. Museveni there hold that old woman called Kada. You will see the whole Busoga power itself in Kampala because they are still annoyed for having lost the speakership. You get? That's why, out of her courage, you saw her say, "I will not take them." You remember, I will just buy them. Remember when she was on TV, like with some press conference, she said, "I will just replace them, but I will not do it." There are some people, you see, in every ocean, there is that fish that is not touchable, that is poisonous.
They are untouchable, yeah.
Okay. So she will, of course, get the likes of Nandutu, those ping pong people, the mediocres, and have them in.
Sacrificial
get bail.
Yeah, of course. How you benefit? Most of them will be arrested. They will, of course, be taken to court and remanded to Luzira, and that's a price for the rest of the Ugandans, because if we get so many, bring these testimonies like Rugorobi, then we shall have the prisons at least rehabilitated for human safety and welfare. Then secondly, is those who are conscious enough, they will have to pick a lesson and understand that dealing with this regime at some point, it can, make a U-turn. They can turn around against you and you find yourself in jail.
Yeah.
Then the other thing is that, like Norman said, expect a lot of reshuffles in the forthcoming. Of course, President will reshuffle most of his cabinet members. But remember, he told you that we have the untouchables.
I will not be surprised if he even reshuffles and brings his son. And he says, my son is very against, he's against
corruption and he will be pressed, and so many young people will be pressed. And trust me.
You would be shocked.
Trust me, Rogers.
The son shows signs of interest in totally different things.
Yeah. You see, Rogers, trust me.
The next
Sanja, 2026, 2031, trust me, we may have a campaign theme, zero tolerance to corruption. And the examples will be the rest of these ministers. That's how Museveni is a planner.
Let's go for a very short commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. I honestly feel like we have a lot of things going on and we don't seem to pay attention to any of it. And we don't get anything out of it. But let's go in for a very short commercial break. I hope that we find solutions. If you're out there, please contribute to this conversation. Just send a comment, or you can send a question for something that you need some more clarity about. But if you have a comment that you have something that we may not exactly have put right, please put it in the comment section so we can both learn together. So we are going to go in for a very short commercial break. We will be right back.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Fellow citizens, following the sequence of events, Uganda seems to be at political crossroads.
I'm not a servant of anybody.
Madam, I know the law.
As such, Alternative Digital brings you the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besuje.
Let's keep on the same page on Alternative Digitalk,
As he gives you the alternatives on the transition question, rule of law, human rights and freedom, youth inclusion in governance, economic stagnation, as he confirms.
I'll be always here Saturday from 10 a.m. in the morning. Be there.
Don't miss the live discussion on the Alternative Uganda, Digitalk TV Facebook pages, and the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704111720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back from that very short commercial break. My name again is Rogers Tulyahabwe, and today I have the privilege to moderate a discussion with these two gentlemen. Discussions, I think I should say, because we have had a number of things touching here and there to try to pick some of those things that have been outstanding since the beginning of this year. And what has dominated so far has been two mostly. One has been about the discussion on the homosexuality bill, the procedures and all that. But the second has also been the corruption that has been at the center of almost every issue that has happened this year. Mostly, of course, the Mabati and the Karamoja issue. Somehow we are forgetting that there were goats that were also going with the Mabati. No one is speaking about the goats. I don't even know how that ended.
And each goat cost 800,000 Ugandan cedis.
But no one is speaking about
it. It goes back to the
and they procured, I think, 600, 400 died on spot.
But you see,
somewhere
where you have not talked about the rats. Where do you get the audacity to talk about?
The goats.
Makerere and Kabanyero, I think, they bought some bull at 1.2 billion.
Yeah.
A bull.
That's from South Africa.
When it reached here, it could not mount the locals because they were so weak to even hold it. And that money died, and no one has ever been. So you have that your parliament.
The Bank of Uganda
you get
pen is
the pen,
380,000.
I mean, there's so many things. Then you have, but recently I think the Ministry of Education I think even Council Kato forgot to talk about it when he talked about the inconsistencies of your regime and your government at large, where they told us out of excitement that our kids should have a ceiling on tuition. You remember?
Yeah.
You remember?
And they
Kids
passed
have,
that
kids have now
policy.
already in a holiday. You have this country, Uganda is full of wonders. There we are.
Meanwhile, speaking of the regime, let me just keep it going in that direction. You have had the, well, some people call him president, but Mr. Retired Kano, Dr. Chiza Besigye, say that he is not interested in any political office. His campaign is as far as removing the dictator. And if that is achieved, his life is, I think his life's mission is done. What do you think, what do you say about this?
I think for me, first of all, to congratulate Dr. Besigye. You see, to be honest with you, first of all, as a politician at heart, I know there are some things that you would want to first think through before you make such declarations. But where he has considered to make some such declarations and he has followed them, you now qualify him to be one of those few species that keep their word. Previously, he said he wouldn't petition the Supreme Court in regards to the presidential elections. Remember, 2011. I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it should be 2011. He didn't. So those of us who follow his sequence of events, we ticked that. 2016, I think it was 2016 when he refused to petition. Is it 2016?
I think it
Even
was,
2016.
2011 he did. 2016 he didn't.
He
And it's
didn't.
Babas who,
yeah,
you remember?
petition.
It's Babas who petitioned. So we ticked. 2020 or there, 2017 or there about, he said he wouldn't contest in 2021. People were like, no, they will just, he's lying, who come? He didn't.
Yeah.
I am now convinced that it could be true. He may not, because now how else do you become a leader if you have not contested or led a whole group and perhaps it considers you as one of the, the leaders, even if you chose to have a committee of, okay, the presidency, like people suggest, like in their PFT thing, the leadership. Should it be as he suggests? One, it teaches all of us that there is that time when you indeed let other people take the mantle or hold the flag and move forward. However, that also to other people, the African setting, how do you for sure, just as in you prepare the food and don't eat at least one chunk of beef, be part of the eaters. There are also those, those people who will be like, as in, so what was even the fighting for? So, but it teaches us as a generation that there can be a breed of leaders without titles. The same way Martin Luther did his thing and the likes of Obama and others have benefited from his struggles of back in the days. What does also that mean to us is that Dr. Besigye has also to pray hard that his followers are strong enough to take what they are already interpreting as a disappointment. You get? Yeah. Because there are also those people who say it is either Besigye or none.
No one, yes.
You get? Given his track record. So how does he bring them on board to say, I have let things be, let us have another person? However, that will also come with the question, who is that person? Yeah? And which could be also hard for him to point on to anyone. Remember, he has a political party that he founded. By the way, Dr. Besigye is one of the people now, in my view, that are in, that are at crossroads. Like one of your adverts, Uganda itself is at crossroads. So Mr. Besigye also is at crossroads. Do you know why? He has a political party he founded. On whether or not it is living its dreams as for what he thought would see, I do not know. Him and others found a social movement, a movement, and that's PFT. You get?
A pressure group.
A pressure group, yeah. A pressure group that has an amalgamation of so many other political party players. You get? On his right or on his shoulder is now another social movement that now rebranded and became a political party with Masanyadaze. You know, with all sorts of electricity. That is NUP. Yeah. Who is the visitor before Dr. Besigye's declaration? Sorry, who is the president before NUP's? Yeah. Who is the president? Mr. Honorable Chagulanyi had visited Dr. Besigye a day prior to the declaration. So now one asks, okay, did they discuss that, okay, now that you have come, tomorrow I'm going to, I mean, a day later, he declines any interest. You read behind, I mean, beyond the curtains and like, okay, so what was this aimed at? So Dr. Besigye is at crossroads to convince his people that, look, any other person can take it on with or without me. But also he has a political party which will also wonder, because should Dr. Besigye in courts, I repeat, mess up and chooses otherwise to support any other person, now not FDC candidate, many will take him as a betrayer.
He will have
because how do you found a political party, all of a sudden you leave and then support another person? You get the crossroads that he's in. I mean, he's
even if it was me, really.
That would end like the Federal Alliance of Betcam.
By the way. You get
and the DP, so
that becomes a crossroad, rather a crossroad. I think for me, I haven't had an opportunity to hear from him. I would want to hear from him so that I don't speak on his behalf. To tell us, okay, what does that mean? Because it also takes courage, and by the way, special courage, that you are going to lead a movement or a pressure group, takes charge of this country, rather throws away the dictator, and you simply walk away. Because in most cases, you are the architect, you are part of the architecture plan. What do you envision as part of the leaders of that movement, should it be there? You get? So I think for me, and with due respect, once I get an opportunity, I'll ask him what it is that he meant. Because for me, it's a hard decision, a controversial decision that he made that will come with so many consequences. Political consequences.
But okay, I'll come back to you. I'm going to have to first get Kato's view on this one. Kato, do you think this now is, the word retirement is not a very common word in this country, let alone Africa?
Especially with the politicians.
In the political space especially.
It's surprising everyone.
So, yes. So do you think this could be some sort of another hope at this, another modus in the operation of public service?
I think to me, as somebody who has followed politics for some, I should say, little years, basically he's some special. He cannot be graded with so many of the politicians we have as a country.
Both in opposition and in government.
Both, of course. You generalize them. I think last week, someday, I was reading some news when this former governor of Kampala, Abdul, in Amin's regime, passed on. So the government was represented by this old man from the the third prime minister. What's his name?
Moses Ali.
I
think so, yeah. Yeah, because they served together the same government.
Exactly.
And they are both Muslims. I think it was
and the burial
a suitable representation
was in
Bombo
Barracks. But surprisingly, the government representative, because of his old age, he couldn't leave the vehicle to go and attend the burial. He only stayed in the vehicle and the burial was done. And he was the representative of the country. So when you talk about retirement as some new word, especially when it comes to politicians, then you are very correct. And the facts speak for themselves. At his age, and so many other people who have been serving, and surprisingly, some of them have been serving on the seat that was meant to empower the women. As the women representative since the 1990s. But to tell them that you leave this office and go to another, that's a tug of war. They will be declared as an enemy of the region, as an enemy of the district, and an enemy of that constituency. But to say, I think Besigye, in his capacity, he has shown how leaders should be acting. Having founded the political party, and at the time when the party was doing so well in this country because it was a leading political party, and I know it had some resources, it had so many supporters. He decided to quit as a president of a political party and handed over successfully to the second president. But we have some political parties where the presidents cannot even dare try to give it to somebody for a day or two.
Some are even carrying it to another party.
Exactly, someone to move with it and add it on another party without saying, I am giving
having a job in the other government is not enough. It has to come with it.
But you see, so somebody of that caliber and of that character shows how selfless he is. He's very selfless. He's not seeking for his personal gains, I should say, because the things he has gone through in the country, this struggle, show how brave he is and how he has been, his consistency, even the time when he had opportunities of bargaining for power and taking a share in the same government, he decided to decline the same. And when he says his retirement is coming and he doesn't need any office in this regime, I think he means what he means. But there is a condition he added. He said, but before he clocks 70,
these 3 years.
These 3 years will be years of tug of war. There is something he wants to do in the 3 years so that the regime can also feel his presence. And I believe with his consistency and maybe like I talked about, if the rest of the people gain their conscience back and stop being misled like floods and the bottles of water in the floods, because the floods when they hit this side they fall, when they hit this side they fall. You see, I believe if they follow him, he will be impactful in this struggle that we are in these 3 years, like he said, because he has been tested, his consistency has been at its peak, and they have actually proved that something can be done to either twist the regime or make some changes here and there. So I believe he's not interested in any political office.
Okay, and I wanted to also go with this. Now we have a lot of people who feel like, well, those who are diehards of Dr. Besigye as an individual, supporters of FDC, but particularly for Besigye as a person of the FDC.
Second, Rogers, this is the reason. You see, even when we got the multi-party politics here, the politics had been constructed onto individual merit. And you can hardly blame it on Besigye or DP or other people. Up to now, you will have someone coming as an independent, they call them here NRM leaning. Yeah? Beats the official NRM candidate. You have seen it in by-elections.
The NRM leaning beating the official.
You are simply leaning, you're not leaning, but you beat someone who is already
in the party.
You beat the other one in the party. So there are those that believe in Dr. Besigye as an individual, and most likely they have not even understood or read the principles and or values that FDC stands for. You get? There are those, and in most cases there are many. When Dr. Besigye leaves FDC as president,
they know that's the end.
You get? And so is with the, I don't know, very many people. So it becomes kind of tricky, very tricky to balance between the two. The political party with how it is supposed to run, and those who believe in him as an individual.
And you saw when we are almost clocking the 2021 elections, how many of the youth in the FDC gathered at Nadia Nyankumbi to put Besigye on pressure so that he can join politics and contest.
Yeah, and contest, yes.
But he ignored.
So this is what I wanted to ask. That we have all those people who feel like Besigye, it's all either Besigye or no one. You have those people, we are also trying to build this whole thing of retirement that someone should reach at, which is trying to do. Reach a time and even if you're so good, please go and rest, let other people give some fresh perspective and flesh to the struggle and all that kind of stuff. Where does that leave us? Because there seems to be a lot of people who feel like now the leading opposition party sort of is inexperienced. Yeah, and there's a lot of opportunism in that space. There's a lot of people who have that feeling. Now the leader of the struggle, who the legendary, I think, is the best thing. A legendary leader of the struggle is going to step down. Where does it leave this whole struggle in quotation?
It's a tricky one, but to begin with, I think for me, we erred when we made keeping in power more comfortable vis-a-vis, and then pretended to teach the world that retiring is a symbol of misery. You get? Rather than we should have made keeping in power very miserable as compared to when you retire. You get? So that someone in office, not like Americans, they'll make you that being in power is more miserable than even rather living it. Because you saw Obama coming with the black hair, by the time he left, he was already, I mean, gray hair. He was already old. Now he has some bit of relief and... Whereas in Africa, it's the other way around. Retiring becomes so miserable than when you're in office. So, where it leaves the entire group is that, first of all, is to accept that retirement is normal. Keeping in office forever is abnormal. That's the only theory. You teach that keeping in office is abnormal, retiring is normal. So any other big wing, any other opposition big wing, who comes here and wants to keep here forever, we shall say, excuse me, do you think you are more stronger than the BCG? But what I mean, you know the thing, OT,
because now we have
set a precedent. You get? Yeah. We also want to see other people to say, I have contested A, B, C, and Z. Okay, I think I've done my best. Let me go.
Let me leave the man totally.
In fact, I am yet to see this old man in Kenya to see whether he will also really
retire. The one who's still fighting for what? How long? Like 40 or 50 years now.
You get? So you become the figure, the alpha and omega of opposition. So talk about opposition, your mind. When you talk about opposition in Kenya, your head will definitely think of.
Really?
I mean, we should go beyond that level. You talk of President Museveni, President in Uganda, you talk about presidency, Museveni. Yeah? In fact, I am worried that even Museveni might go and we ask our children when another president is in power, and people will be answering Museveni, because they will think that's a title.
That's a title to a president.
They will think, they will think, kids will think that the title of presidency is Museveni. So ask who is the president of Uganda? Museveni. It's just likely. Because someone can overstay, and even when he passes on, you still think that he's still the president of that country, and which is very worrying. So I think for me, it's a good precedent that Dr. Besigye has done it that way. We also look forward to seeing other people saying, I think we have done. There is literally nothing more.
We have done our part, yeah.
So it's high time that other people take also the mantle.
And I hope we learn also one more thing, that there is always going to be problems and challenges. So someone feeling like they have not solved all the problems shouldn't be a reason for someone to overstay, because you'll never solve all the problems anyway.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Yeah, it's not made for you anyway. And you do what your party's goal, let the other people also.
And you see at some point, Rogers, I think the problem also comes from these people that are surrounding the individual himself, who is in either opposition or in government. Because by the fact that Dr. Besigye is active in politics, I know there's a group of people that is earning and getting some livelihood from his participating in politics. That's where the problem is. And when these people cannot independently take their decisions to either do A or do B, then that's where the problem is, because there are a lot of words, a lot of pressure from the people that are surrounding you, not knowing that they also have their personal gains and interest in your struggle. But when somebody takes a decision and independently, very conscious, then we should applaud him for that.
He has done his job.
Stood and he has challenged so many, including the opposition. I remember we had elections for LOCs some years back. But the LOCs who had been in power since the 90s were crying to leave that stamp. And you know how much they are paid? 10,000 a month. And it comes at the end of the year. That's 120. So that's how power can be. That's how power can be.
Yeah, there's one Tumuhimbise Hillary superior. I think this is a superior to Tumuhimbise. Me, I'm convinced that corruption and misuse of public funds is our greatest challenge as a nation. Otherwise, we would be very far as a country. Dead roads can't allow production. Lack of electricity cripples manufactures. Schools are dead, but you hear billions misused. The management costs of those public projects, it is bigger than the cost of the project itself. I agree with him on that. Politicians are richer than entrepreneurs. I read that somewhere in...
and it is very
yeah, I read somewhere that one on the internet today. And I was thinking about it. How can you have politicians who are richer than entrepreneurs? The richest man in Uganda is a politician. And he says, thanks for the show, watching live from Tel Aviv City. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You called him Tumuhimbise.
You
see, Tumuhimbise, it's so correct. I agree.
Right. Yeah.
But I should
you also add that the Tumuhimbises have always been brilliant.
But to say Tumuhimbise and so many other people viewing us, you see, however much you have better roads, even reaching your house from the main gate, the main road, starting from your gate, and you have nothing to actually transport on that road, then it will not be helpful to you.
The same way, even if they hadn't stolen the iron sheets,
Rogers will not have benefited.
No, I mean, even the people that had been allocated to the iron sheets, that wasn't their necessity at the time.
It wasn't a priority to them.
That's true. No, but his point, I think, is that some services to thrive, even for the people to be able to benefit from those things, they need some sort of empowerment.
Yeah,
so if I cannot start producing in a remote place if there are no roads. So I can only be productive if there are enablers like that. But anyways, time is running out. There is another comment, Rojumbura Media TV, but I want to read it when we have introduced one of the topics that was supposed to actually be the topic of the day. The one about the situation in Sudan, of course, our neighbors in the north up here. What that means for the region. We seem to have thought, well, we have always bragged about Uganda being the superpower in the region, having the military might and all that. I have not heard the president say anything about it, apart, of course, from convening with the other heads of states to speak about what this means to the region. What I want you guys to just throw a highlight in like 5 minutes each, what the insurgency in Sudan means, or what its effect and impacts can be to Uganda as a country, but also East Africa as a region.
Okay.
Yeah, let me begin with Norman.
It's a tricky one to say, but where, records of history has it that where, say, a dictator has been in government for 20 years, it might also take 20 years for that country to keep in conflict. Yeah, and you already have examples of Libya. You have examples of course, now you see Tunisia is also, down.
Here and there, yes.
Zimbabwe, so many. So this Sudan now is harvesting the seed that was sowed by Bashir, and that seed will, these seeds germinate, reproduce. Yeah, and also leave grandchildren and the rest, which is, God forbid, but sometimes this God forbid thing is not fair. It's like saying, God forbid if I die, but we know you will die. So even putting it there, then you are already contradicting yourself. So where you have a dictator that has been in power for that long, there will always be those cliques. There will always be those cliques. Now you hear there are two generals now fighting. Yeah. Remember, there is one general that is pro people, and the other is pro the gun. You get the extremists. So where you have such two parallel groups, I can assure you, you cannot have peace. Additionally, you have a very, very toothless African Union. Very toothless. If it's to compare its level of toothlessness, it's like a camel. No teeth, just uses the jaw, to chew them. That's how African...
It even lacks the jaw.
You see? Toothless and jawless. You get? Otherwise, at this era, that people pick guns and begin burning their city into ash. there is a fundamental and mental problem with Africans in particular. But before you even blame Africans, then you hear some whites in the Eastern Europe also fighting, Putin and the rest, and like, it's not now a black issue. It's an issue of human nature. Like, human beings have an issue. Literally, either there will always be those who are mad and those who are fair and the rest. Back to the concern that you raised. This gentleman here, he also has his issues. Gone are the days when he would brag around and now cross to Sudan with combat, with what. He has issues to manage here. He can't even take his...
The fighting actually started the way he was going.
But the man has contributed to the East African army.
You see, it's one thing to contribute to the army because you want to take monopoly. And there are these people like... when you grow and you grow, you become to be so sensitive on things. So even when he says, let me be, they'll be like, you leave this Mukade here. Let him be.
He's about to leave us.
Yeah, he's about to leave us. So let him be. So if a Mukade, for example, if your grandmom or granddad fought for a cup of tea, you say, you take after all. This is the last one. One of the last ones. So you let him take, like, this is one of the last cups you're taking. So even if Mr. Museveni
wants to be here for long.
Yeah, in any case. So I think for me, first of all, the continental organization like African Union hasn't done its best. Sadly, is that it's the normal taxpayers that die. Yeah? Normal taxpayers that die. But also to say that until Africans make it intentional and say, we do not want wars here, I can assure you, these wars will stay here. But also to add that for as long as the supplier of the guns continue making money, and we continue creating markets for their guns, wars won't end. There is no way you can have that war sustained if there is no person that is supplying ammunition. I was asking that, okay, they brought the religion, we accepted it. They brought education, their education, accepted it. They brought, so many. What is it that we have given to them that they have accepted? Even in the wars they bring them, we do accept them. It's a black against a black. It goes back to us as citizens, but also to literally advocate for peaceful means. And I am an advocate of non-violent means of advocacy, which I want to believe that theory also works, because now people will die. You burn the cities. Even when you come into power, you now have to use
killing your own people.
You're killing the very people. So who is for the people? He's killing them simply because you went to power. It's high time that Africans thought towards finding solutions to what eats them up.
And the funny thing, you did talk about I'm going to classify them as whites, those countries. Usually they are the people who come here with the preachings of democracy. This is how things are done. But the same people...
those ceasefire things, ceasefire, peace talks.
The same people with the gospel of democracy. They are the ones who are funding most of these things. I was reading some time back, I think it was last year, about Algeria, and it's one of the countries with the most, I think, the most ammunitions and stuff like that. But of course, the insurgencies that have been happening in that region have mostly been funded by the UKs, the US, those type of countries. But they're the same people who will come here and say democracy is this and this and this.
I think
we are on both sides.
We wouldn't blame them per se, because to them it is business. To us, it's idiocy. These two things don't... You get? To the West, it's business. To us, it's idiocy. Because for them, so as long as they make money, you buy guns and you kill yourself, so they use your idiocy of wanting to be in power, to be in charge, you get. And then the more stupid we are, the more they get money, the more they make money. In fact, to them, they feed on our stupidity.
They are both angels of light and darkness.
Be stupid, buy guns. Be wise and refuse guns, then they don't make money. So they will, wars will forever be here unless otherwise.
Okay, Kato, I wanted to also get your opinion on what you think the issue in Sudan, what sort of threat it poses to the region as a whole.
You see, Rogers, the problem that is causing all these fights and wars is power, the struggle for power. Who to be in leadership. And you ask yourself, if at all we are all good believers and we believe in what the Bible and maybe the Quran tells us, and that all we are having on this world is all vanity, what takes us to fighting and killing a fellow person, a brother and a sister? But to say the problem does not affect Sudan itself alone, but it spreads.
It spills over.
The aftermath.
It could even come to South Sudan.
Because
people will be like, they will have a point of reference. Sure, these things worked up here. Why we used to have coups in the 70s? It's because almost every month there would be some government overthrown.
The success of a coup in some country would force the people in a different country to also cause a coup. And this is where the problem all goes in. The problem that we face as African countries, majorly, is that we cannot believe that minus the use of the gun, most of the countries and the governments cannot change. There must be bloodshed, and that's how we can change power from person A to person B. Until we change our ideological thinking of how this should be done, maybe through a popular vote, and you're voted out or you're voted in. This is what we shall always be facing. And like Norman said, the success, if at all it succeeds, and the regime is changed in Sudan, we shall see so many other countries also plotting coups and trying to kill people so that they can also change their regime. And to say, I was reading a little bit earlier about the news that most of the countries around 50-something were starting to evacuate their citizens because of the risks that are happening in the country. And where does this leave, the relationship, international relationship with Sudan? It means that where the citizens of a country are not safe in your country, then you have nothing to add on to them.
Absolutely.
Because in a country where there was, it's gun, it's fire against fire, fire for fire, trade will not go.
Nothing
in that country.
Even refugees. Now you get refugees, the economy is down.
I saw the country is hit by poor health services. Nobody is in the hospital to treat the people that can even have survived. They have no electricity, shut down, and that's how messed the country is. But to say, the insurgencies and the wars, the fightings within the country, as the effects are spread to the neighboring countries. Because the people who are fleeing the country right now are going to the neighboring countries. And that's how we get the problem of all these refugees running to different countries. Not that they are willing to be refugees in different countries, but because of the insurgencies, situations force them and find them in situations that they cannot hold. And the only option that is available to them is to be refugees. And when they come as refugees, for example, to Uganda, it is a burden to Uganda. You get? Because you have had refugees who are even ruthless, who get involved in fights and kill even the citizens of the country. You get? So that's where the problem comes in. Because somebody brings the problems he faced in Sudan, for example, in the war that was happening, the fighting, because they get used to the sounds of the guns and the bullets, and they cannot fear to attack a police officer to grab a gun and also shoot you and you die. So the problems of Sudan are always carried to the rest of the country. And I believe that we need to change our ideological thinking about how power should be changing from one government to another, unless we are tired of mankind and want to keep making it a habit of killing so that we can take power. We kill, we take power. That's how power
all for selfish reasons.
It's all about self-interest.
One of the issues I've had with this particular pricing right now is because I had around Eid, because Sudan is generally a Muslim country.
Majority.
So as one of them was saying that, you know what, let's first cease for a bit, let people enjoy the Eid. Then we can resume if we must.
Imagine the stupidity in human nature. Just like how it's been in Ukraine. They even pass announcements. We are giving you 1 week
For Eid.
civilians to vacate so that we can
So that
fight.
we can fight.
What even animals can't do.
No, but honestly speaking, as an individual,
Like you
that's a funny situation. But I would respect someone who respects life. Because one of them asked...
But even the soldier you
But
want
even
to
the
kill,
soldier you want to
that's
kill
life.
is a human
That's not-
being.
It's not a robot.
It is life, but now the two of you
So
have
you mean some lives are more important, are more of lives than others? Because when you
No,
say,
these ones have made a deliberate decision to say that we want
seize
to
guns, we first have our Eid and then tomorrow we shall fight.
Tomorrow we shall
for the,
start from
for the
there.
sake of the people.
We keep
instead of
we keep
killing
the
civilians.
leftovers for tomorrow.
And because the civilians are now caught in between. They have not accepted any of this. But the two sides have accepted, look, I cannot accept your position, you have not accepted mine.
But-
so I feel like you must force me
But
to
to
accept
also
it.
say, Rogers, the issue of capitalism has also led to the increased insurgencies and wars in different countries. Because the person who makes a gun is a businessman.
His priority is money.
Yeah,
If you take
No
the
matter how
offer,
many
I'm
lives.
giving you this much, I want this and number of guns or ammunitions, he will say, pay the money, you will get. So that's where the problem cannot be solved just like that. Because some people, I think they are trigger happy. They want to buy guns and shoot in the
Latest ones,
air, and they are happy, they have enjoyed their life. So
But-
capitalism also...
Yeah, well, capitalism
Can be-
is something
can
that
be
is
blamed
here
for
to
this.
stay. So that one, we just need to learn how to live with it. But we are sort of running out of time. I left an issue about Kenyan politics for the last part intentionally because of the mess that is around. I don't understand what is it that is unique in Kenya that any of the neighboring countries cannot speak. What is going on? Why can't we learn? They have had their share of ups and downs. They have gone through literally the same process that we have been. We literally all got independence around the same time. What is it that Kenya is doing that we cannot do? And that will conclude our discussion for the day. I'll begin with you, Norman.
What is it that is in Kenya that we can't do here? I was about to say it's because they eat ugali and nyama choma and maybe sukuma wiki. Maybe because they eat lots of greens and their reasoning is ahead of us. Because for sure here, I don't understand sometimes what's wrong with Uganda. That someone who is a believer and a graduate asks Rogers on why he's wasting time
making advocacy campaign.
You get
and the fight against corruption.
Anyhow, Kenyans are lucky, first of all, that they have sober leaders. And even when there is some bit of leaders that are not sober, those that are against, that are in opposition, have that, they have that, can I call it moral authority to command and take leadership and charge of a certain situation. Come back, because now we are doing a comparison. Dr. Besige, when we were buying soap at 7,000, at 10,000, remember? And fuel was around how much?
It was around
the gentleman
7,000 or
was in
8,000
town
as well.
with
Mukaku.
Mukaku and a few others.
There are about
You get?
5 of them.
This gentleman, Dr. Besige, can afford soap, fuel, mention it. You get? The councillors who are as broke as I am were busy home swinging on their beds. You get? When he was granted bail of 30 million, even when we knew, and it is factual that he had the money, he appealed and went back to jail. You get? Kenyan leaders, both opposition, women, men, when they say on Monday tutasonga kwa barabarani, like, to the streets, they will be there.
Yeah.
In Uganda, when you declare today, MPs will switch off their phones and hide. That's when they go to constituencies and say, you see, doctor, I lost someone, I must bury tomorrow. I must bury tomorrow. So these two countries are different.
Where is the point of difference? Why is there so much? I don't.
Maybe here we are united. We are united by blood and divided by greed. That's so as long as I'm an MP, all I need is to tell Dr. Besigye, I mean, my constituency, we shall fight these wars on the floor of Parliament. But you saw Babu Owino and so many others on the streets. This is now a national matter. No matter how much I'm earning, this is now for all of us. In Uganda, we have this is mine. This is mine. Because if you are compromised in Parliament by either Speaker or anyone, tomorrow they won't want to see you on the street leading anyone in a demonstration. So here we are, united by blood, divided by greed. It's mine. Kange munanga I became a councillor.
Kange shit
kange. But doctor, we can always fight there.
Yeah,
in the flow. We have a flow. There's this platform. Let us take advantage of this platform. You know the things. So for me, that's the bottom line. That until we do, I think we need a new breed of leaders, but also sometimes you wonder which leaders, because even when you now go back onto the guild leadership, the youth council, we are purely also breeding the same breed of the corrupt. I mean, the Chigati team of, Chigati team of, he has contested for guild president at KIU. But how people could now swing it to him like, now, Mr. President, I'm like, you get someone, I mean, I've been telling colleagues, you move around and someone touches their throat. Honorable. Touches the throat. Like, the throat is so dry. We must improvise something.
It has made me remember some event that I attended. So some weeks ago in the village. So when somebody was addressing me, welcoming me, we have this lawyer, he's an advocate. So after, a group of people called me just behind and they said, Kati engeri gy'oli omusajja ow'amaanyi, we need you as our MP. And I was like, are you serious? You people, honorable, what a musawa. I even got a title of honorable.
Yeah, they always have their titles. They move with them. They can't even go to president. Depending on how much you have.
They are saying, leave the rest to us. You make a pronouncement that I am coming as an MP.
So there is a very big distinction between Kenya and Uganda. Even when it comes to online advocacy campaigns, I think for me, Dr. Spire's campaign, of course to compare Kenya and Uganda, is one of those most successful online campaigns. But you try Kenya, you see how their social media campaigns work. Those guys, they are shrewd. In Uganda, trouble. So it's, I think we continue praying that we do civic education towards and amongst our fellow colleagues, maybe with time, because you cannot be stupid forever. For some reason, maybe this gene is okay. If our generation is stupid, maybe we shall produce kids who are not too stupid, and our kids
will produce.
Yeah, relatively. It happens. With time, because our great parents didn't put on clothes. People began by also putting on skins and hides. Maybe with time, we may not have sleepwalkers like we have them. Maybe with time.
Rujumbura Media TV says, thanks for the show. Sudanese insurgency should be a big lesson to those grooming armed groups for own interests. They may protect their presidency, but the future of their children and grandchildren may not be guaranteed. I think that is right. I very much agree with you. Now, as we are concluding, I want us to have a takeaway on generally the way
public service make a comment.
Public service has been. Yes, I want you to. I wanted to hear your contribution about what is it that Kenya has that they can do much better than we are, and then of course crown it up with a conclusion altogether.
But to say, Rogers, the people, both in opposition and in government in Kenya, are not so selfish like we have here. You can imagine the situation we have in Uganda, even an opposition councillor who lost an election want to be referred as a shadow councillor. That title is very enough for them. You can imagine? And you have had all this. A person who leads a political party with or without a councillor or an MP wants to brag, and when they come, even when you invite them for a show here, they want to be addressed to leader of such and such political party. And you ask where is even the political party, even when it is in his pocket and in his house.
That I have never heard before.
And that is not something that you will hear from Kenya. Because if you look at, if you followed even how Parliament was vetting the cabinet, you had how rich those people are. Even the people in opposition themselves, they have a lot of money.
Even the response itself towards Laira. Yeah. But here you have Chris Bariomonsi. You know how he does his thing.
How he brags.
You'll have Enanga say, you there.
You there. And that's the story. And when they woke up one day and announced, I think he saw them on the streets and their impact. And their commands and demands were very clear, very clear. And when the government actually bowed down to their demands, they also added demands, because you are
you are bowing to,
you are bowing to our demands, so let us push and push much more better. It's only because that they look at the greater Kenya, not their personal and selfish interests. Here you have a political party that gets a 3 billion from maybe electoral commission.
Ah, that's okay.
That's the end of the story. So with such kind of leaders in our politics, where do you think we can fit and be like Kenyans? Because the other ones speak with one voice, but here, at least I am the head of the political party that is the leading opposition in Uganda.
There are those voices when they are broke. There are those voices when they are yet, when they are promised something, and there are those voices when they have received what they were promised.
They cannot compare that with Kenya.
Those are the 3 voices. Now, if you want to get a clear picture, you wait for the reshuffle in Parliament now.
That's when you hear words.
I pray that you will invite me here. That's when you hear now other voices coming on board.
You are giving your conclusion altogether.
Yeah, so that's the only difference we have. That in Kenya, with or without, if it's a matter of national importance, the masses will listen. Because they have tested these leaders, they know what they can do. And the government will actually reach a conclusion and say, at least we can offer this to the people. At the end of it, all we are doing it for a good Kenya, not the one that we have here in Uganda. If a person is given a ministry, or promised, not even given, he's promised to be another DC, you will not see them in the struggle anymore. That's the end. You get? So that's where our position and the rest is. Okay. And that's how we cannot be at the same level with Kenya.
Mr. Numata. Very briefly.
Yeah, briefly. I don't even know what to say, but to pray to God that if we are sleepwalkers in this country, we pray to God that our successors become more brilliant than we are, that they should never allow anyone to lead them for 40 years if we have been stupid enough to be led by one. And the generations to come should never accept that, people steal them if we have foolishly accepted to be stolen. That we pray that the next generations be more patriotic if we have stupidly failed to be patriotic enough. May God bless one and bless all.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being a part of the discussion. As for me, it is just one. I get puzzled by what is it that these guys are doing. I just don't understand. I have a friend who lives in Nairobi. She had come back for Easter. So I was asking, how is Nairobi? How different is it from us? And she was like, man, let me tell you, the whole thing is totally different. I do not know how people function there. I do not know what is it that we are not doing right. But it's just different.
You find it different.
So I'm just hoping that as the people, we also start waking up to understanding our roles. I like Kato said at first, he said that the thing is, it goes back to me as an individual. What is it you're contributing? Understanding your contribution to this whole thing. Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Before you point finger to a leader who has not done such and such a thing, what have you done? What are you doing as an individual? So I think maybe if each one of us, we all look into each other, the inside, maybe then collectively together, if each one of us is doing their right, we'll do what is right for the community and for the country ultimately. So that is what we have. That is a small wisdom from me. My name again is Rogers Tulyahabwe. We are going to close it at this time. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for being part of the discussion and for the gentlemen who have sent in their contributions. their comments in on Facebook. Thank you so much. The conversation can still continue. The video is going to be uploaded on YouTube, so you can always make a comment or a question or an answer to some of these queries. And maybe next time, if God wills, we shall come back and find some answers again. Have a very good night.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.